This is the 217 Recovery Podcast with Corey Winfield and his better half, Marney Winfield. Oh, you ready to mix them in?
We're going to do the podcast.
Oh, okay.
Marney
don't get mad at you, is he?
No. Mad herself, I don't know. All right, let's see if this is good. 20th of May, 2021. My name's Corey Winfield.
This is Marney Winfield.
My better half.
Ha.
I need to change that.
Ouch.
Like my significant other. I don't know, better half. That's it's not like derogative towards men or me.
I don't know. I think it's a term of endearment, but
You are kind of my better half.
aw, that's so sweet.
Yeah. Oh, like sound effect. No, today I figured we could get to know Marney a little bit.
What?
Yeah.
What do you want to know?
Well, I mean, a lot of people, they do listen, and they're probably like, man, Corey just won't shut the F up. And Marney seems like she knows what she's talking about. She has her own story, her own path to where she ended up marrying some dude like Corey. Like, what happened to her? Like, where does her story start? Where does it begin? Is there anything that you want to share? Like maybe some inspiration, some hope that if somebody's listening, male or female, or maybe just female, that you could give some advice to, just based on your experiences, things that have worked for you and things that didn't?
Well, I will say just for the record that this is totally off the cuff, and I had no idea that this was coming today. Oh. So I guess if you want to treat it like you would any kind of normal interview, I guess.
All right. Okay.
Mr. Professional Broadcaster.
Have you ever bought anybody tampons?
Yes, I have.
Nice.
Even before I, was a woman, I went shopping for my mom.
But for you, it's probably not that big of a deal.
No, it's not.
Well, we got that out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
It's an icebreaker question. Mm-hmm. No, so when did you start drinking? And is that your only drug of choice?
Okay. I had my first drink when I was 15 years old, early 15. And it was with my best friend, and we had planned it all and had her older brother purchase it for us. And it was, I remember specifically, it was wild berry schnapps and a 2-liter of 7-Up. And I remember having the worst stomach ache ever. And I think that was probably from drinking 2-liter of 7-Up in like the space of a half an hour. But I don't know. We locked ourselves and we had a sleepover and waited till it was late, till my, dad had gone to sleep because my parents were divorced at the time. So I was at my dad's house and we locked ourselves in the downstairs. It was actually my brother's old bedroom. And so, and we just listened to music, and I don't know. I don't really remember the specifics of it, like if it was all it was cracked up to be or whatever. I think it was more like to say that we did it. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. And then probably 16, 17, high school years, I was really into sports. I was big into soccer. I played year round. So I played indoor in the winter, and then I played travel during off season. So I was always busy with that, and that was a big passion of mine, and that was a first priority with me, big time. So when parents would go out of town or whatever, people would have house parties, and I grew up in Saline, which is super rural area, more so now. I mean, now it's like big city kind of, not really, but it was a lot of we had field parties or whatever, and bonfires and stuff like that, where people would people would have, tailgates or whatever kind of deal. But I always was made sure I wasn't, putting any kind of partying before what was important to me. So I got really good grades, in school. I was really driven to get into a good college because that was important. It was important to me, but it was important to my family too. I mean, I think there's got to be some truth to your values are kind of imprinted on you when you're a child. And not saying it was shoved down my throat, you have to go to college. It was just college is usually, is the next step for you for building a career and what have you. And so, I made sure I studied for SATs and blah, blah, blah. And I actually got deferred to go to U of M, which I was kind of bummed about, but they wanted me to write a letter about what it meant to me to be a Wolverine. And I was I grew up right outside Ann Arbor, and both my mom and my dad both went to U of M. So I was kind of I can't really write a very passionate letter about, because it's not really that important for me to be a Wolverine.
I hunt and gather my food.
I mean, we go out to dinner on campus. It's not and so.
How are you supposed to get into a mind of a Wolverine,
Right.
I hunt down rabbits and...
Yeah. So I ended up getting accepted into Michigan State, and I went there. And let's see, as far as my drinking career, I guess freshman year and sophomore year, I drank on the weekends sometimes, not all the time, when there was house parties or frat parties or sorority parties or whatever that we would go to. But I never drank during the week or anything like that. Then
But when you did drink, were you
yeah, that's when I learned how to get drunk. That's not true. I learned how to get drunk when I was a senior in high school. Yeah, because we would go to college campus. We would come up to Michigan State to, party or whatever with the seniors that I played soccer with, who were obviously then freshmen in college. And so we would go up to visit them to do a campus visit, which means, go up and party and stuff. So, but I mean, it's crazy, and I'm not saying this is a good thing, but I got hungover those days. Those are the days that back when I knew what a hangover was. And that seems so long ago in terms of my drinking career and how I carried myself and what my final destination was, I guess, in terms of, a drunk or a high. And I smoked pot a couple times, and I say that because people laugh when people say that, but pot was not my thing. I didn't really like how I felt on it, and I hate the way it smells. I absolutely, it grosses me out, and it still does to this day. Never appealed to me. And it was my junior year of college is when I really started drinking heavily.
Was that because I know you had a boyfriend that was going to the University of Phoenix or something online, or Acorn State or something. But when you guys ended, did you start drinking more then, or because you guys were over and you were crushed, or
No.
Was it what flipped the...
No, I had a boyfriend from when I was 16 years old in high school till I was almost 21. And
so that was a huge breakup.
It was, but it wasn't, because it was kind of it had been ending for a long time, just because I was in school and he was, he was in college, but he was back at home, still at home. And we had kind of we were such good friends that it just got to the point where it was are we really going to try to be that couple that was we met each other when we were 16 and we're still together, and there was a lot of differences in what he wanted and what I wanted. And when you get to be that age, it's kind of like we could figure that out a little bit. It was a little more clear. And, so that wasn't really a crushing thing. But, it was definitely kind of like I didn't have to make any more time for the moving, like going back home to visit him or whatever. And then I got a job at a bar. And I think it was like the middle of my junior year. And I was a cocktail waitress at the Riv in East Lansing, which is a very popular college bar. And I got promoted to be bartender within like 3 months, which is really unheard of because obviously college bartenders make a lot of money. And from that point on, it was downhill, essentially. But I did a really good job of being a functional student alcoholic. Like, I didn't, at least for that year, like my junior year and like beginning of my senior year, I made sure that I was still getting I was an honors student. I got accepted into the honors college after my first year at state. And so keeping up my GPA was important. I had to take honors classes or honors options, which were a lot more difficult. So I did do a really good job making sure that I, got everything that I was supposed to be doing done before I went and,
So far, it just seems like, that's what a lot of people would consider normal.
Then it became not normal. Then I started drinking before I went to the bar. And it wasn't in my senior year. I started drinking like by myself, and I was going out like 4 or 5 nights a week. That's not true. But I was a bartender. So we would have like drinks at the end of the night. I would end up, even though I didn't go out, I would still end up like getting drunk before the night was over, just having a couple drinks by the end of the night. It was routine. It became normal for me, and it wasn't looked down on. It was funny. I remember we called it Sunday Fun Day, and I usually worked on Saturday night, and so we would get up early and like go to the bar at like 11 o'clock in the morning and just get ridiculous. And it was, I don't know. So, but then it started catching up with me, and my grades started slipping. And that scared me. My friends that I actually went to school with, one of them, my best friend, she and also the other girls I played soccer with, or one of the other girls I played soccer with, were my roommates starting from sophomore year into when we were seniors. And they totally started like distancing themselves from me because I was like in this crazy party mode, and, they weren't going to follow suit, which was, great in hindsight, so, but yeah, we kind of lost touch of each other. And then I didn't want to go on to graduate school right away. I did end up graduating with great grades, but, I don't know. I got a job in outside business-to-business sales, which I made decent money at, but I wasn't that big of a fan of it. And, I always, since that time, dated people that drank, because that's what I was comfortable with. And if they drank, then when I drank, it didn't seem like that big of a deal, And then, like, I don't know, late 20s, early 30s is when it really started getting out of hand. I went from job to job. I would quit before I got fired, or I would get fired for not going. So essentially quitting, I had this thing like, I can't find a job that makes me happy. That was one of my things, like excuses. Like, I'm just not happy with like my work, and that's why I just don't want to commit to anything. That's why I'm, don't feel like going. I don't care if I get fired because it's not my fit. I haven't found my niche or whatever. Ugh, stupid.
Well, there's some truth to that, though.
Yeah.
Like you didn't have your purpose yet. Mm-hmm. And that could have changed the game altogether if there was more direction, or maybe, if you were not working at a bar or working at some other place that wasn't fun, that made you focus more on the where you're going next instead of hey, I'm going to have fun, Sunday fun day, and see how many dudes are there and party and whatever. Like, if you didn't have that kind of mindset, it might have helped you find a purpose. It might have helped you to that next step, but obviously that's not in the cards. That's not what happened. Mm-hmm. That's not what was supposed to happen. Mm-hmm. So what advice, before we move on from the college thing, mm-hmm. what advice, because, kids getting ready to go to school for the first time, and some could think, which probably what you were thinking at this time, and 4 years ago when you graduated high school? A couple of years ago. But no. They're probably thinking, oh, that's not going to happen to me. I thought that. Mm-hmm. I'm not listening to this podcast. My mom told me to, but I'm not going to do it because mm-hmm. I'm not going to be like these two. But when it gets to that point where you're like, I think I need some help. Like, what advice would you give somebody, like, before they flunk out? Because obviously there's going to be a point where they know it's bad. Mm-hmm.
Are you saying from a parent standpoint,
no,
or from
just from you?
For me, recognizing that I had an issue and put the brakes on it?
Yeah.
Shoot. I mean, as well as I do, is that sometimes you just don't want to listen to yourself.
Right.
I guess. I mean, if I would have had some sort of and I'm not saying intervention, like family get together, sit you down and tell you that your world's falling apart kind of deal, but had some sort of, if I would have reevaluated what opportunity, really sat down and been what do I want? What are my goals? And I need to go for it. Because it took me a long time to actually have that mentality again. Because when I was in high school, I had that. I knew that what I wanted to do. I knew that, what my priorities were. I knew what was important to me. I knew what was healthy for me. I knew what wasn't healthy for me. And I managed to balance that, because when alcohol is a priority, when drugs are a priority in your life, there's a problem. That's the bottom line. And that's a kind of a difficult thing to because it was all of a sudden, it's like watching grass grow, nothing. And it's holy crap, we got to mow the lawn. This was just I'm fine. I just drank. And then it's just oh my God, I'm an alcoholic. For, you know what I mean? There was times because mm-hmm. There was a moment when I was I can't. Well, here's the thing. I'm going to backtrack. There was time when I would say to myself, I could not drink tonight, or I could stay home and do something else, but I don't want to. I choose to go out, or I choose to, have wine with my friends tonight. And there was always, it was something to do. There was always seems like there was a purpose of some sort, an event. There was a reason. And then as my drinking progressed, there was absolutely no reason. The only reason was whatever day it was another day to drink. So I think that if I would have actually had myself sit down and be remember the stuff that you wanted to do, remember how, the plans that you used to have and the dreams that you had, what happened to those? Why are those not important to you anymore? Did those just go away? If I would have been able to point that out to myself, I think maybe I might have thought. But in hindsight, I think if I would have gotten into some type of if I would have gotten in, listened to people at an AA meeting, actually listened to what they had to say, opposed to being this headstrong, I'm just a college partier type deal, because I got in trouble with the law when I was a junior in college, and they didn't do anything. I didn't have to do barely anything. They suspended my license so I could only go to class. I lived on campus. I didn't need to go anywhere to drive, even though I could anyway, because if I just had anyway. And they made me go, if I had a syllabus in my car if I would have gotten pulled over. I'm like, I'm going to office hours. Something ridiculous. But anyway, I think they made me go to like 2 AA meetings and then like a MAD meeting and then do community service. I actually had my community service signed by one of the guys that came into the bar that worked at a church. It said that I did my community service there, so I don't feel very good about that. Mm-hmm. But, yeah.
Yeah, that's bad.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Jesus. I didn't know.
Poor decision making.
Yeah, but you know what happens, and it is what it is. And of course, being an addict, we're going to take the easy way out if we can. And like you said, you weren't really taking it serious, because, well, first of all, you're too young to be an alcoholic in your mind, and had your life gotten unmanageable, probably a little bit, but it wasn't so out of control that you lost everything. So, yeah, I would kind of probably look at it the same if, I would have gotten in trouble with alcohol when I was younger. I got in trouble with marijuana, and that made me drink and do acid. Well, that didn't make me. I chose because those were the things that I wasn't tested for. I was only tested for weed and coke. So, yeah, what else can I do?
Yeah.
And they thought, oh, we're doing a good thing. And I don't know, that's just kind of dumb way to think. But, an addict is an addict. And that probably started my downward descent. And I got out of control and unmanageable like early 20s, where I went to my mom and I sat down on the end of her bed and said, I don't know what to do. Well, I was out of control. I'm drinking this hard liquor stuff like all the time. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm school's hell. No, I think I was done with school at that time. But the radio station was hell. I wasn't making enough money, but I still needed to drink. And that was a big turning point in my life where I swore that I wouldn't drink hard liquor anymore. Which I didn't for a while. But the end result of the night was me getting drunk. Whether it was going to be on beer or liquor, the end result was still the same. But then I started smoking pot again to kind of mix the two a little. But yeah, I'm just glad I didn't really take off too far in the wrong direction on other drugs. Could have started to, but it was real back in. So the time that you got in trouble, you went to AA, you ordered there, and how old are you? 2019. I was 22. Yeah. But you're hot. I'm just kidding. Just kidding. No, you are. But when you walked in there,
I don't even remember it, honestly.
Remember like thinking,
not really. I mean, I vaguely remember. It was like going through the motions, essentially. And I still was like, I'm young. Everybody literally my job was to get people drunk. Like, nobody came into this college bar just to like have one beer. It just didn't happen, And so I was just the one who got caught, and I wasn't abnormal. I wasn't sick. I didn't have, I didn't have a disease. And the thing is, too, it's crazy because you would think that I would be more in tune with the whole thing because my father was an alcoholic my entire childhood and young adulthood. So he was at that time an active alcoholic. But he was also a very prominent lawyer in the town that I lived in. But even after I graduated, like shortly after I graduated high school, his disease got worse. So, the whole the nature of our disease is progressive. It doesn't ever get better. It never gets better. Mm-mm. Like if you're an alcoholic and you're drinking, it's never going to be like, oh, I used to drink this way and now I just drink it like an alcoholic this kind of way. It got worse and worse and worse and worse. And he ended up losing his practice and he's talked about it. He went bankrupt and lost everything, and so you would think that I would be able to reflect back on that and be like, and I do remember when I was like a kid being like, my dad is an alcoholic and I'm not going to be like that. So I don't know where in the mix of it all it became like when I acknowledged the fact that I was drinking too much, it was always like, this can be undone. In my head, I was like, I will never let it get to that point. This can always be undone. I'm just living life like the rest of the world lives, and people may, you see the movies and you hear about it and, everything, it's a normal thing. I think the disease is more acknowledged now. If you go to Netflix, there's movies about rehab and, addiction and what have you. And I don't remember anything like that, back then. But, yeah, I always thought there was an out. And so that way I convinced myself it didn't seem so bad. But, then it was years and years of, crappy. And when you're in your disease and when you are around negative people who are sick, nothing good happens, So my relationships were crappy. I had no friends to speak of, You just don't have that when you're an addict. People just want things from you, They want somebody to drink with or use with or whatever, and I went to multiple rehabs, and for about a decade, I was just this roller coaster of getting okay for a little bit and then being okay for a little bit. And it seems like there was this trend of getting well enough to like get back on my feet and have my parents not be down my throat about everything. And then I would fall hard again, and then I would stay down. And every time I stayed down longer and longer and longer. And then hospitalizations came, and it was, it was a really sad, dark span of life for me. A lot of abuse in relationships, and just a lot of running from my problems, and a lot of disconnect from the people that wanted to help me because I was ashamed of where I was at. And I remember my parents calling me, or and they're divorced, but they would each call me and leave me messages, and got to the point where they would be like, if I finally picked up, because I would always say I'll call them back, but I'll call them back when things are when I have something good to say, and I've shared that before, like when I have a good job, then I'll call them back. When I have when I'm not sleeping on this couch anymore, I'll call them back. But when I have not anything good to tell them about how my life is, and I can barely keep myself, sober enough to make a phone call, and all it ever was just, and I felt terrible lying to them because all I did was lie, oh, I'm doing okay, and they knew I wasn't, and they had to pick me up so many times, and finally, like, they'd get calls from the hospital. I don't even know how they got contacted, because my mom was my emergency contact. I would go from in Ann Arbor at one point. I was going from one hospital to the other hospital to the ER because I was so embarrassed that I had been there like a month and a half ago.
Oh, you were picking hospitals like we pick liquor stores. So
yeah, that too. I did that too. And I recognized nurses and things, and I just couldn't kick it. I couldn't. And then there was a time when I was like, I've accepted the fact that I'm an alcoholic and that I just probably will just die this way. I just don't want it to be painful and awful. And can I manage that? I couldn't even manage that. And it had to get that bad to where my last drunk, I had been at my mom's trying to get sober enough to get into treatment and not be back in the hospital. So she actually went and bought me alcohol to try to have me to wean myself off enough so I could be functional to get to treatment. Because that's what I wanted to do. I didn't want to go back into detox. I was tired of detox. I just wanted to do it at home. And then finally, I couldn't even keep the liquor down. I was like, I can't do it. So I ended up going into detox. And I told my mom, I was like, I'm tired. And I need to change. Because I want to. Because before I did it for other people, I did it for my parents, or I did it to keep a job, or I did it to, for a boyfriend or whatever. And that never worked because it wasn't for me. And so when I got there, I was like, when I got to the last treatment center, I was like, I am here to learn about what the heck is going on with me. Why is it that I'm not okay in my own skin? And when did that happen? And why? Because I know that the reason that I picked up the bottle when I was 15 was not the same reason why I picked up the bottle when I was 22, was not the same reason I picked up the bottle when I was 27, was not the same reason I picked up the bottle when I was 32, and on and on. And it's when they say the progressive nature, that's exactly it. Because every time I picked up the bottle as I got older, my disease had progressed and I had more crap that had happened to me, more crap that I had done to people, more crap that had been, mistakes that I have made, more sadness, more hurt, more anger, more fear. And it was this, huge mess that I never wanted to actually confront and deal with. I didn't want to talk about all the things that had happened to me. I didn't want to talk about all the things mistakes I had made and done to other people. Family members I had turned away and stepped on and taken from and, lied to. And so I finally was like, I'm not going to get better until I just face all of this. So when I had been to other rehabs, I was just going through the motions. I can't say I didn't learn anything when I was there, though. I mean, I did. There were definitely valuable lessons and some self-searching that I did while I was there, but I didn't surrender. I didn't say I can't do this on my own. I don't have a handle on this. And that's where I was at, this last time. And that I'm worth it. That's another thing, too, is I didn't love myself anymore. And I had no faith that anybody could ever love me. Anybody who'd ever tried had let me down, or I'd let them down. So I didn't really see much hope for myself. And I didn't see much reason for me to try anymore. And I'm not going to lie, there were times when I thought things would be easier if I just didn't exist. So did I ever try to commit suicide? No, but I really didn't care if I lived or died.
Mm-hmm. And that's the addiction part, because obviously you don't want to die, but you actually deep down did not want to die, even though I was in this very similar place many times where it was like, yeah, if I just didn't wake up, I'm cool. Mm-hmm. But no, deep down, I really wasn't cool. It's just I didn't want to be there in that moment anymore. I didn't want to feel those feelings. I didn't want to feel that hurt, that betray, the guilt, of all the things that I had done. And when I say done, I was not robbing banks or beating people up or nothing like that. But, just letting people down is enough for me. Mm-hmm. And it sucks. And I was going to ask you before you started talking about that, if those regrets or whatever, or those oh, I did what? Oh, shit. You know, and because they pile up and they stack. Mm-hmm. They don't just blow away when you open the door or you get clean for a month. They don't just blow away. They're still there.
Yeah.
And I could give any advice to people, it's to deal with the stack before it blows up in your face, one by one. You know, you don't have to let it stack up to the ceiling. But if you don't deal with them, like say you're like, oh man, I haven't drank in 2 months, but you haven't done anything about accepting the things that you've done to other people. Like maybe you stole $20 from your cousin. You know, you need to make that right somehow with yourself that you can live with it. Does it mean give your cousin $20? Maybe. You know, maybe it's not even that. Maybe it's something completely different. Like maybe you cheated on a spouse or something, you know. Do you have to come clean? I don't know. I don't know how your marriage is. I don't know what that is like, but you have to be good with it in yourself. You have to accept it, you know, as that happened, and what can you do, you know, because it'll eat you up and you'll go right back to drinking or using whatever you were using before, and it gets harder because you go back twice as hard. Mm-hmm. And it's just a pain in the ass. So, you know, get that stack and start going through them. But it kind of sounds like that's kind of what happened to you. They just kept piling up, and you're just like, oh my God, like, who am I? Mm-hmm. What have I done? Oh, give me the bottle. I'll forget. Yep. Yeah. Okay. Feel better.
That's a good point too, is because for those of you, and what we're kind of talking about is sort of like 4-step stuff for those of you that want to kind of make the connection to AA, but in terms of like making your amends and like making a list of the people you have harmed and et cetera, is be prepared when you do that to know that there's going to be some feelings that are going to come up. And I don't think that gets stressed enough, you know, that if you're really asking somebody, sit down, take time, think about it, and you're literally making a list of all your bull crap, I mean, that's intense. Mm-hmm. And if you're not ready for that, that could put you in a really sticky spot. Mm-hmm. I mean, because that's what we do, man. I mean, that's what we do when we're uncomfortable, is we're alcoholics and addicts, and we drink or use when we're in those spots. And so when we're like specifically making ourselves, you know, address things that are uncomfortable, make sure you're ready to do it, and make sure that you have support and that there's a reason why you are doing this. Mm-hmm. And it's because you need to learn to forgive yourself. That's the biggest one. It's not about forgiving other people or needing or wanting forgiveness from others, because that may never happen.
Right.
We can't expect that.
No.
But what we can do is work on ourselves every day to be better than we were the day before, and be consistently, make a consistent effort, you know, and renew our, you know, commitment to our recovery every day. And I have to do that every single day. You know, every day I know that I still have this disease, and I know that if I pick up, doesn't matter what kind of drug it is, it will take me down. Maybe not that day, maybe not the day after that, or the week, or even the month, but that shit will catch up with me, and I will end up right back where I started. Because time and time again, that's exactly what happened. So...
See, and a friend of the show, well, he's my secretary, actually, Justin, he talks about how he used to sell drugs to people. He can't go to all those people and make amends, you know, but what he's doing is he's learning the most he can about addiction. He was actually taking the suicide prevention training with Kirsten's Ride. He was on there yesterday, and I think it was again today. But he's doing those little things where he can give back and he can help other people, you know, and that's all he can do, you know, and so that's something that he's working on, and I kind of do the same thing a little bit with the podcast. But I was going to mention something that you brought up earlier, but then you told me to stop playing with my little hand.
You can hear it.
Hand warmer thing. But it feels so good. No, see, I had broke my hand apparently on somebody's face, I want to punch him. I was like, hit him. I don't know. That didn't happen. I don't know. My carpal tunnel, whatever, stupid stuff, old person stuff. So I had this like brace, and then I don't like it. But anyway, yeah, I have this cold pack, and sorry if you could hear it.
It's okay.
But no, I want to talk about Justin, and then I wanted to bring it back to something that you had said. Oh, it was about when you went to treatment the last time, and you had told your mom that you were done, you know, that you were just tired. Like, what was her reaction to that? Oh, heard this before, or was this something that was new?
No, my mom has always been very, like, well, nothing's going to change unless you change it. You know, she always felt bad for me when I was sick, like I was, but it was she never was like babied me, you know. But she also wasn't like, you did this to yourself. It was kind of just like, well, Marnie, you know, have you had enough? And that's a pretty powerful statement. Is like, and people said it, and you know, is like, somebody said it to you, is, you know, like, what's it going to take? Mm-hmm. Like, when are you done? Like, when is it going to be enough pain and suffering to actually have you change? And, you know, the thing I think that tore me up the most is when I'd see my family, like, no words, but they would just cry. Like, when I would say goodbye to, like, my siblings and stuff, if we had a get together. I remember one time my half sister, who I don't see very often, was like, she hugged me, and she was an adult and I'm an adult, and she just hugged me like she was never going to see me again. And there were tears in her eyes, and she's like, I just hope that you don't die. Just like that, ma'am, you know? But my mom, I mean, she would get to where there were no words anymore. And that's what really tore me up. But that's how powerful this disease is. You get away from it and you start feeling a little better, and it's like all that stuff just goes away. You know, all those, like, I mean, you were on a hospital bed and they were told you, if you drink again, you're going to die. And then you start feeling better, and those words, were they said? Do you recall them when you went and purchased your booze?
Yeah, and doctors, they just try to kill my fun.
Yeah. You totally just debunk, like, everything in whatever kind of way you can. It's just like, they say that all the time. It's just like putting a warning label on, you know, any kind of medicine. Mm-hmm. This is one of the side effects, is you might die. Well, everything is going to kill you. Mm-hmm. Kind of thing. Yeah,
it was the other pill the other doctor gave me. They don't even know what they're talking about. Mm-hmm. I don't even drink that much. Well, I know I do, but you know what? And I haven't in a couple of months, so I should be good. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the power of it. And you know, kind of like what you had said earlier too, is when you get to that point, and I actually described it to a woman today that I give right to. Like, I got to that point where I just threw my hands up and was like, all right, enough. It's like if you're trying to dig yourself out of a hole, right? And you just keep digging yourself deeper and deeper and deeper, and you're like, damn it, I know there's some secret steps down here. I just got to keep digging. And I'm like, no, look, man, the steps are right over there. And I'm like, I got this, man. Look, I'm doing it my way. You take your stupid little steps. I'm going to take this over here. So I'm digging, and I'm getting nowhere. Mm-hmm. And then finally, I break my shovel, and I'm digging with my hands. I finally get to the end where I'm like, all right, man. I'm done. I'll take your stairs. Mm-hmm. And I walk up the stairs and I'm like, oh, Jesus, that was so much easier. It's so much nicer up here. Like, my God, why was I down there doing stupid stuff? Like, why was I still thinking I was going to try to find my own way out of this? Like, they told me the steps are right over here. Like, why didn't I just listen? I wasted how many days, hours, years down in that hole trying to do it my way, trying to find my own way out, you know? And no, other people have tried, sure. But they're not me. I'm different. And I can make this work. There's a woman who's supposedly a big fan of the show. And, you know, she checks in with me from time to time. But at one point, she thought I was her sponsor. And I'm like, well, I'm not your sponsor. But if you ever need anything, you know, hey, reach out. And I don't know. I guess the relationship kind of went bad or whatever, and the ex reached out to me and was like, hey, man, I just want to fill you in on some things, and this is what happened, this is what I found, and I was like, wow. Like, why? Like, the thing with her, like, there was no need to lie. She was burning bridges that she didn't even need to set on fire, and I don't even know if she realized it, and that's part of addiction too. But, I wouldn't ever in my active addiction, and this is me, I would never just call up somebody and be like, yeah, man, I got almost a year clean. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. All right. See ya. And then go get drunk or, use meth or whatever. I wouldn't do that. That's me. Mm-hmm. Other people are different. But until you're ready to throw your hands up and just go, all right, I'm done. I'm gonna try your guys' way, and I can never drink or use any drugs again the rest of my life, and I'm good with it. Mm-hmm. Until you're ready to do all that, enjoy treatment, enjoy outpatient. And I seriously mean that. Enjoy it. It doesn't have to be bad just because you have a problem or know someone who has a problem. Maybe let them know that it doesn't have to be hold your head down, sulk. They're probably going to do that enough anyway because of the guilt that they have and the shame. But they don't have to feel the shame from other people. They just need to pick themselves up. And if they can accept this is the situation I'm in right now. Mm-hmm. Everything happens for a reason. The more they believe that and the more they say that, the easier it does get to move on to that next step. Mm-hmm. But enjoy it. Yeah. And then when you can come to terms with I can never use drugs or alcohol at all again.
That's a doozy.
Then you've made it. Mm-hmm. There you go. You got the, and then that's it.
And that, they call it a spiritual awakening or what have you. Mm-hmm. And like I've talked about this before. I can't say that there was one shining moment. Like, when was your spiritual awakening? I can't describe one particular time, like where I said to myself, this is exactly the moment when I've realized that I actually can do this. Because I never really acknowledged that, even to myself. I never said to myself in my heart and said to myself, I really can do this for good because I need to, because I want to. I have to ever be happy again, to ever be full again of myself, like alive. I never said that to I was always like, yeah, sure. Definitely need to get sober. Definitely going to stay sober. Yep, for sure. Because sober is the way to go. And, it was like I was talking, like telling somebody else's story kind of deal, And so it's a really humbling experience when you actually realize, and I would say, I choose to call my higher power God because I know that I didn't get here on my own, because that feeling, that acknowledgement, and that surrender was not from just me. It didn't come from just within me, because otherwise it would have happened a long, long time ago. It was something bigger than me that gave me strength to be like, come on, it's time. It's time to really just do this now and see where it gets you. And then I did it. I did what I had to do, and I paid attention, and I worked on things, and I struggled through, dealing with my past crap, and then things started, and did the next right thing, and things started turning around for me. And I was like, I realized I don't need, what was the big hurrah about with booze? Like, how did I get to that point? Why did I literally had to have it. I had to have it. I couldn't do anything without it. Nothing. And when you're physically dependent on it, that's the scariest part. When you have your first experience with your DTs and seizures, because I had seizures. I was hospitalized, and I don't even remember getting there. That's scary. And that's when, crap gets real. It's like, wow. So here I am today. Like, there's not enough money in the world that you could give to me to have me go back to that. So that equates to me for me picking up a drink or a drug. So, and in terms, when you asked me, I will circle back to when you asked me, like, am I only an alcoholic? No. I mean, I'm an addict. My drug of choice is alcohol. That's how I would define the majority of my disease revolved around alcohol. But at one point, I decided that I was going to get clean because I had to with the alcohol. And I've told this story on the podcast before. But for some reason, I thought that it would be okay for me to try smoking crack because,
Man.
I wasn't addicted to crack. So, and that became a problem for me as well.
I've heard horror stories.
Yeah, it was kind of short-lived. I went back to the booze and then I just was like, nope. But that was a gateway drug, if you want to call it that. Who says that? Crack was my gateway drug back to my drug of choice. That's kind of funny. Not funny, haha, just weird to say. But, that was fairly short-lived.
We'll talk about your crack days next week.
Oh, okay.
It'll be a whole episode.
Sure.
I tried crack and it was whack.
Oh, nice.
Not really. I just woke up. I told that story and woke up and the pimp was staring me down and I was like, what? $50. Oh, I have $50. You want to hit that? No, got a girlfriend. What the fuck? Driving home, it's like I am never hanging out with Matt again. I don't know what am I doing with that guy? Like what's going on? Like this is a horrible situation. Why am I keep putting myself in these situations? But when I got there, in my defense, I didn't know we would be smoking crack. Like, I thought we were just
you
partying,
never do.
hanging out. And
that's
that's
how most things are introduced.
And I'm sure I said no at first, but then you get some shots and you have some beers, and you're like, hey, why not? Everybody else doing it. Nobody's dropping dead.
Mm-hmm. I always thought I was special because I never stuck a needle in my arm. That was like, that is an addict right there.
I requested one in my arm. I said, well, just shoot me up then. And the person was like, no. Some other people were like, oh, that person must have liked you. Because once you do that, it's different. Because I was like, yeah, your heroin sucks. It's stupid. Does nothing.
Yeah.
Oh, you got to do it like this. All right, let me do it like that. No.
That's terrible.
Yeah. But when you're drunk, you make those kind of decisions.
Mm-hmm.
For me, at least I did.
Mm-hmm.
I never just was out sober as hell and thought, you know what? Let me try some ice today.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can snort a line of heroin. Mm-hmm. That was never the plan. Mm-hmm. But you start drinking, you're around the wrong people. And next thing you know, the whole, I said I'd never do that. Yeah, but then I did. Well, I'll never do that. Well, then I did. And it just keeps kind of adding up. And, that's what I said earlier. Luckily, I've never, the other ones didn't catch on, but alcohol was enough for me, man.
Yeah, it's definitely poor decision making, for sure. And everything escalates because that's what we do when we're addicts. We want more and feel more. Or feel less, whatever the case may be. So, that's our addiction talking. But yeah, it's been a rough ride.
Well, thanks for sharing everything that you did today. Mm-hmm. It takes a brave soul to do that in a room with me. Just kidding. No, but for real, thanks for sharing that, though. I'm sure a lot of people will hear some things in there that maybe they can take from it and pass on to other people, or maybe just use for themselves and whatever. But you ready?
Thursday night shout out.
She wasn't ready.
217 recovery.
Daniel, shout out. Greg, shout out. Jeremiah, shout out. Josh, shout out. He shared some good stuff in the NA meeting the other day. And I already gave Justin one. We'll give Matt a shout out, see if he's listening still.
Okay. Let's see. Shout out to Carrie. Shout out to Angela. Shout out to Paula. Shout out to Don. Shout out to Joe. Shout out to Nicole. Yeah, that's it.
I'm going to shout out to our mothers. Ooh, gotcha.
Nice.
Yes, finally, I got to get it in there. And to the Buchanan, the police department. What did I say? I just said the Buchanan, the police department.
I don't know what you said.
I meant to say the Buchanan Police Department and Tyrone.
Oh, nice. Yes.
Cool. Thanks for listening. If you want to win a free T-shirt that says 217 Recovery on it, and then 217 Recovery Podcast on the arm, looks pretty cool. I'm not going to lie. Check out the shirt. Sign up to win it. 217recovery.com. Get the app. Listen to us on there. Get your daily reflections, your 24 hours a day readings on the app as well, and listen to old podcasts. Now, to be fair, we just kind of got the app not too long ago, and I only have one episode from 2020 up there so far, but I do have like a month or so, a couple months from 2019 from when we first started, which is kind of interesting to listen to, and it kind of, that's how I feel about it sometimes. Like, I don't even know if that's a word. I cringe.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, oh.
Right.
Just because it was so long ago. So early. And I love messing with Rob. I miss that.
They're fun to listen to.
Yeah. You sure? Okay. Since you said they're fun, then they're fun. Yeah, go listen. Thanks again for listening to this episode, and we'll talk to you on Saturday.
Night, everybody.
See ya.